comedy, pop culture, and everything in between. By idiots, for idiots. Welcome, sinners. This is Sports Idiot Nation.
Welcome into Sports Idiot Nation. As always, I am Adam Reno, joined by Miles behind enemy lines and Mr. T.I., of course. And guys, it's been a couple weeks now. Today is Thursday, August 8th. It's been a while since the Deadpool Wolverine movie. You know, we had a chance to see it, but we haven't talked about it yet. And this is not the show for the spoilers. I promise we won't get into the spoilers, but it did get us thinking because it didn't reach quite our top five. And so T.I. wanted to ask you, tell us about maybe your top five, or what was the first superhero as our elder? You are the eldest. So we're going to ask you, like, did they have electricity when you watched your first superhero movie? What was the situation there?
Well, you know, my remote, I hit a button and a pterodactyl flew out and it would go change the channel.
Yeah.
You know?
Was it a Dinobot?
The Flintstones was actually a biography on my childhood. So
Yeah.
a lot of people didn't know that, you know?
T.I. instead of Wilma.
Yeah. The Jetsons is a future biography on my life. A lot of people don't know that either. It's wild.
Yeah.
But, oh, man. So my first superhero movie that I remember being good, or that I remember, I mean, there were
Just in
terrible,
general.
terrible
Yeah.
things that were popping out. You know, we had the awful Fantastic Four, you know, the Roger Corman.
Meteor Man.
Rest in peace, Roger Corman. But the first superhero movie I ever saw was the '89 Batman. I mean, I was 10 years old. I mean, I guess you could say RoboCop is a superhero movie, sort of, because it is a comic book.
Yeah.
But
And what about
I mean,
Christopher Reeve,
I
bro?
did see. Well, I'll be honest. We'll probably get into that. I have just never been a huge fan of Superman. I respect the lore. I have just always thought he was like a cheat code. I thought he can
unfair.
do everything. He can do everything. The only thing that can stop him is a little green rock from a planet that none of us can go to. Like, that's it's unfair. I mean, Batman is just a normal dude, right, with a lot of money. So
he's a ninja with money. Yeah.
Yeah. With that being said, my first was Batman '89, Michael Keaton. I mean, that was the first superhero movie that really had people willing to take a chance. Studios just did not want to invest money into it. They just looked at Batman as the old TV show as something corny and ridiculous. And
Come a long way, I guess, huh?
You know, Tim Burton and Michael Keaton and Jack Nicholson did wonders with it. And for years, you know, Batman was the quintessential superhero film. I mean, every summer there was a new one. Every 3 movies there was a new Batman. So, yeah, my first one was '89 Batman. Still to this day, one of my favorites. But is it in my top 5? I don't know. I guess we'll have to wait
to be seen.
Well,
we'll have to wait and see.
Then you got me a little curious. Is that what we want to do? Do you just want to go through and let's do a little top 5?
Top 5, we can do that. We can't do. I don't feel like we can just do like a top 5 MCU because there's like 100 of them. I think we need to do a whole episode just ranking MCU movies. But I think for this episode, any superhero movie, any genre, it's fair game. Your pick.
Yep.
I mean, why not limit the?
Okay.
You know.
Okay.
So yeah.
So
top 5.
totally fair.
Top 5. Everything's on the table.
Let's do it.
Judgment free zone.
Well, no, not a judgment-free zone. Calm
Adam,
down.
don't be afraid to tell us your favorite.
Nation.
If My Little Pony is your first superhero movie, or Care Bears movie, the first superhero movie you remember, that's fine. That's fine, Adam.
Kids.
Garbage Pail Kids was a good one. I mean, not really, but it was a good one in my childhood. But
Right. All right, so
the little alligator guy that would eat toes.
Right.
Crazy.
Miles is like, what are you guys talking about? He only knows
I think,
about it, but he
like
didn't experience it.
Furby Fully Loaded, that's a superhero movie, right?
Be fully loaded.
Might be some other kind of movie. I'm not sure.
Said Furbies. All right,
But
so your top 5.
Top 5.
You have, let's go.
My top 5. You want me to start off? My top 5. Oh,
you
man.
will survive in your Mach 5. Yes.
All right, so I'm gonna start my all-time favorite superhero movie. This is, people are gonna probably take this one as a wild card, but Batman Returns is my all-time favorite comic book movie, superhero movie. It's a legendary story. It is a Christmas movie. It is phenomenal acting, top to bottom. I mean, Danny DeVito, Michelle Pfeiffer, Christopher Walken. I mean, just that alone. Christopher Walken as Max Schreck is so just creepy. And the Selena Kyle Catwoman transformation is Tim Burton style is just epic.
How all the little shots go up to her and lick her and stuff.
Yeah, it's
Michelle Pfeiffer gave me my first boner. It's true.
Congrats.
Jessica Rabbit gave me mine, and she was a cartoon, and I just didn't know how I felt about that. But that's a whole nother episode. But
we know you're into furries as well, so that's fine.
Well, we'll get in that. But
another episode.
So being number one, number one is definitely Batman Returns. Number two, I think, is probably this is tough. Is probably The Dark Knight. I mean, Heath Ledger's performance is phenomenal. Christian Bale helped bring Batman back to the mainstream.
Yeah.
I think that's great.
Can we all say that Dark Knight is in our top five?
Unequivocally.
Of course. I figured it would be. Why not?
Right.
So
three
what's
for me. Three, Which
three
Miles, by the
is,
way, do you find it interesting, Miles, that he's going the wrong way? He started
I did
at number
too.
one.
I was like, that's fine. I usually top five start at 5, but hey,
they
usually
do start backwards. But I just was like, if I start backwards, by the time I get to the first one, I might have already forgot what I was going to say. So I might as well just,
He's like, when you start counting, you start with a number 1, then you go 2, then 3, then 4, then 5. So it's all right.
Yeah, once we get up to 5, I have to start taking my shoes off and stuff to get to 10, and I just really didn't have time for that. So
I think also T.I. knew that Miles was going to break his studio, and he didn't have much time before he breaks his microphone.
Yeah,
earlier. So he's like, well, let me get the first one done. All right.
So all right. So number 2, there you go. Dark Knight. Number 3, Infinity War. Infinity War is just fantastic. To build up to that
just missed my top 5. Just missed mine
over a 10-year time frame. I invested a lot of time and money into that. I saw probably almost all those in the theater. Drank a lot of beer, ate a lot of food. So I invested a lot of time, and I was pleasantly surprised with that. I was hoping that it would build up to a letdown, and it did not for me. And to follow that up, whether this is expected or not, it's Endgame right after it at 4 because
that's in my top 5.
That's in my top 5 as well.
It's awesome. And then
that's tough, man.
Number 5 is probably a wild card, but it is to me the most comic friendly adaptation that's ever existed in modern cinema, and that's the original Ninja Turtles movie at number 5.
Yes,
because
yes, me too.
Fantastic.
It is
Turtles 1.
It's awesome. So we'll talk about that then.
Solid.
But I guess honorable mention, Captain America: Civil War. That is my probably favorite standalone Marvel MCU movie. Excuse me. I love Civil War. I meant to say Winter Soldier, the second one. I absolutely love the Winter Soldier. The 80s espionage type atmosphere with it. The Robert Redford,
man, so
don't want to give away any spoilers there, but his character was just phenomenal.
Gary Shandling is what did it for me. Gary Shandling.
Oh yeah,
Hail Hydra.
Hail Hydra.
Dude, when he did that and you didn't know at that time, dude, when you go back and watch it, you're excited for it to come up. You're like, he's about to say Hail Hydra.
But yeah, don't get me wrong. I do love Civil War. I think it was more of a fan service, which is just all of the faces. But Winter Soldier is just it's got action sequences that they haven't done again. They haven't it's just there's stuff in that movie that you don't really see in any other ones. It's way more violent. It's way more realistic. Way more tangible. There's a lot of modern day topics there of heightened security versus freedom, how much surveillance is good, and all of that. And it's I feel like if you really break it down, it's a more tangible movie than any Marvel movie they've ever made. So it didn't make my top 5, but it definitely has to receive honorable mention because I probably watched it just as much as I've watched some of the others.
Yeah, no question. Was in Infinity War, wasn't the first one where the Avengers came together for the first time, where Hulk is like, I'm always mad or I'm always angry. Which one was that?
No, that's just the Avengers. That's just the very first one. Yeah.
Okay, yeah, because then there's Age of Ultron and
Age of Ultron, which is James Spader's. He's funny, but it's not that
it's
good.
Funny when you know it's him. It makes it more funny.
It's just not that good. I mean, some people love it, but I'm just being
the concept of it, the way that Tony Stark on accident made, like, the concept of the movie is decent, but it's more like the way they did it though wasn't the greatest. Okay, so that's your top 5.
That's my top 5.
Yeah, Miles, why don't you go?
Well, I'm going to do mine the normal way because I'm just a casual, but that's fine. So, starting with the honorable mentions, you already took from me with your bashing of all the Fantastic Four movies. We all know they're a great laugh. I love to laugh. I love sports. I love movies. I love jokes. Fantastic Four movies are a joke, so they make me laugh.
Yeah. They're really bad.
Really grew up outside of the Marvel and DC comic books because they were kind of past their prime by the 90s when I grew up. So the first superhero movie that I remember watching is Mighty Morphin Power Rangers with Ivan Ooze. That movie was just awful. It was
pretty bad. So it's in your honorable
pretty bad.
Grade A.
Yeah.
Horse manure.
I took my brother to see it, and I almost convinced him to walk out of it, and I think he was like 12 years old, so it was pretty bad.
Shouting out other horrible superhero movies, Super Mario Bros. In 1993. Thank God they did a cartoon remake.
That's a damn classic.
Yeah.
It's not very good, though. Dennis Hopper, though.
You washed your mouth. That was so...
Dennis Hopper, though. Oh, man. He's the best. Dennis Hopper's great.
And then he's got
the braids, too.
Ahead.
He's got the culturally appropriated braids, which is very weird. Like, what is that about?
They're Nordic braids, guy. They're Nordic
He
braids.
had him from the set of Waterworld.
Yeah. So weird. Such a weird movie.
I heard that everyone in that set was drunk all the time to get through how bad the script was. That's a rumor, yet to be confirmed.
I think I heard that too. Bob Hoskins was like reportedly like always drunk.
Bob Hoskins, dude, what? So ridiculous.
The one actual solid honorable mention I will give is Guardians of the Galaxy. Always appreciate Come and Get Your Love Now, because I love F is for Family, and so hearing that at the beginning, I was hooked. Chris Pratt,
great movie.
Of course, from Parks and Rec as well. So I just enjoy it. I enjoy the crossover. Then getting into the top 5 as well, TMNT. Grew up on Power Rangers, grew up on TMNT. And actually, in fact, just by coincidence, this last week, I was watching a documentary. It's on Hulu now. I think History made it. The Toys That Build America. Yeah. And going into the Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles, how those developed. I guess Playmates was the one who made those toys, like little kids' toys, but they crossed over into Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles. So that was really fascinating. And then that took off, and then they made the movies, and they expected the movies to completely bomb. And then the first movie just, went gangbusters. So they kept going with that when they really should have just stopped. But first one was a banger.
Turtles 2 with Vanilla Ice, with Tokar and Razor, honestly wasn't as terrible as Turtles 3. Where they replaced April and
everything. It gradually went downhill. It gradually went downhill as most franchises typically do.
Correct.
It is.
Parents complained about the first one and then made him... I was going to say, parents complained and made him replace Michelangelo's nunchucks with sausages. So that pretty much was like the downfall of the Ninja Turtles, Like,
so that movie, if you go back and look at it, that movie actually came out right before I was born. T.I., I know you were like 35 when that movie came out. It was right before I was born. But I do remember seeing it on TV. Enjoy the hell out of it, because the toys they were kind of on the downturn, and the Mighty Morphin Power Rangers really took over when I was like 5-6 years old in the mid 90s. But I really grew up with the toys and then the TV shows, and then obviously they became movies. The movies for Mighty Morphin Power Rangers, we all know, sucked. It straight sucked. And then like they got into the other generations, the next generations of Power Rangers, Turbo, so on and so forth, whatever. The OGs, badass. So moving on, then number 4 above TMNT, got to go Into the Spider-Verse. Love it. So many casual soy boys, they're like, oh, yeah, Black Panther, that movie's amazing. No, BS, line. They're trying to be not racist. Into the Spider-Verse, Miles Morales, that's where it's at, unequivocally. I remember actually watching that movie for the first time while I was deployed. Not really big into cartoons at all, in my adult years, at least. But seeing that, the graphics were insane. Good writing. The soundtrack was baller. Post Malone, shout out. Movie was just quality. Honestly, it's my favorite Spider-Man movie. I like the Tobey Maguire movies, but Into the Spider-Verse was, I think, generational, in my opinion. Moving up to number 3, first Marvel movie, Iron Man. Remember seeing that in theaters. Grew up listening to Black Sabbath, so duh.
Oh, it was just
Robert Downey
awesome,
Jr. killed it. Absolutely killed it.
Yep.
That really set the tone.
Yeah.
Without that, it walks so the rest of the Marvel universe could run.
Go
ahead.
Resurrected his entire career. That one movie.
Kidding.
Resurrected his
He was built
entire
for that.
career. Yep.
Yeah.
So that's number 2?
No, that's my number 3.
Okay.
And then number 2, I did have Endgame in there as well.
Yeah.
Yes.
I think that really goes without saying, because Adam, you got it as well. And then number 1, without question, Team America World Police. Gary Johnston, the greatest superhero of all time. No, I had Dark Knight at number 1. But
Yes.
Team America, I mean, come on. If we're going to have Fantastic Four is allowed to be a superhero movie, then allow Team America into the playing field.
So I want you guys to pause. I want you guys to pause this show right now. And what I want you to do is Google Team America and find out why it's rated R, and then get back to us and put it in the comments. You will find that Team America was rated R for, it says like puppet porn or like
That tracks.
It's a little more. It's more like hardcore puppet pornography, I think, is what it said.
It's like word that you've
who doesn't love
never
that?
seen before, like ever. For a reason for a movie to be rated R, it could be like abusive language, sexual content, like whatever, but it's never for puppet sex. Like it's never been rated R for that. And there's that one scene that's like 11 minutes long.
Yeah.
It is.
Just like,
Well,
It's
one
very
thing that's
ridiculous.
happened recently is we all know Kevin Spacey and the creep he's been. Obviously, he was acquitted of a bunch of charges, but he went on to Piers Morgan show and was saying about how his life's terrible and he's bankrupt now and how he's been destroyed, and really analyzing that. He seems so genuine, but he's an actor. And that reminds me of a line when Spotswood says to Gary, he's like, "Careful, Gary, he's acting." So it's like hearing that line play in my head when I listen to Kevin Spacey talk with Piers Morgan, because he sounds so genuine. And then you realize this dude is one of the greatest actors ever on the face of the earth. So Spotswood, shout out to him. He was a great mentor and leader. And thanks to him, we got Gary Johnston, one of the greatest superheroes of all time.
True.
But then there's also Dark Knight. That's a pretty good movie too. So I have it at number 1. Whatever. Moving on.
Yeah,
Adam,
of
your
course.
turn.
Well, all right. So it's hard to follow you guys, but I will make my attempt. And my honorable mention, definitely, I want to say that for me, I also want to give different shout outs to series like The Boys is one of the all-time great series of superheroes, in that I love it because it totally flips the superheroes on its head, and it makes it a little bit different avenue where they're regular people and that do bad things, where Tony Stark, like you look at it, which he rounds out my number 5 is Iron Man. And Tony Stark yes, he's done bad things in the past, but the whole vision of the MCU as we know it, starting with Iron Man, to me is the entire time from starting in 2007 with Tony Stark, is that he's righting his wrongs. He's righting them all the way up until when he literally dies. Like, and so you look at it as if, okay, he really didn't do anything wrong because he acknowledges it and he's trying to right it. In a show like The Boys, they are not trying to right it. They're like, nope, I'm a better human than you are, and this is the way it's going to be, is the underlying theme, and that's why they need to be taken out by, you know, the other characters. And so it's like, it's kind of a really cool way to look at superheroes that I wanted to just bring up because I think it is fantastic. So there's that.
Love that
Then
show.
also Avengers, just the very first time that they are, again, it was like you said, Ti, earlier, when you're like, fanfare, like, okay, Civil War was like to get all like 17 people in a scene together, right? Like, and that's what Avengers, but it was the buildup because all these secret scenes, you look at the secret scene where they find Thor's hammer, and Agent Coulson is like, gets a call to go to New Mexico, and then they're like, yep, it's there, and you're like, Thor, yes. Even though the Thor movies are not that great, it would never grace any of our top 5 or honorable mention. However, dude, it's still Thor, and it's still the Avengers. Like, come on, and, like,
Ragnarok
and they
was
still
pretty
nailed
solid.
it.
Mhm.
Yeah, that was only
The first one's
because
good.
of
Actually, you know what? These are the greatest movies of all time.
Yeah, actually, we changed them now. No,
The second one is really bad, though. Second one's really bad.
yeah, it was just bad.
Whoa.
I like the balloons,
so,
bro.
Like the balloons. Yep.
Gave you guys some
Balloons
balloons
for
next
Thor
week.
movies.
Yeah, got to get with Apple and turn that shit off.
Yeah, no kidding. That is not what we're wanting.
We don't want balloons.
This is,
It's pretty funny, though.
perfect for Sports Idiot Nation, I guess. Which, reminder, guys, be sure to like and subscribe if you have enjoyed just us being complete morons and idiots. Then what you need to do is like and share with a friend. Go up to someone who looks like an idiot, show them your phone, and show them the YouTube page. Then we're on Facebook, Instagram, all of the things. The links are definitely in the show notes as well. You can just click them. But be sure to like and subscribe to follow. We're trying to grow this community. The way we do that is with your help. So reminder to do that. So I will get into my 5, and I'll start with Miles had mentioned Iron Man. And for me, when it first came out, I was in my prime of movie watching. Like 26 years old is like a great age to like, okay, this new movie's coming out, and like, okay, be excited for it. But I wasn't a huge fan of Iron Man, the character, necessarily, because I will admit I'm more of a DC guy. And so I wasn't sure, like, okay, is this going to be, is this going to be cool? But they made it so realistic that, like, you're like, well, this could probably have happened, right? you're like, yeah, the way the storyline is, and Happy the driver, and this, and like, okay, Pepper, and like the storyline, and he builds this, he's a genius. You're like, oh my gosh. And then when it comes together and he's like, let's paint it, and you're like, oh, I know what color he's gonna paint it. Like, it's just, it works. It just works, right? And it's just like, it kicked everything off. It stands alone as a great movie just by itself. If you've never watched anything else, it's a good movie. Now, obviously, the teaser at the end is I am Iron Man, and then the movie ends. So that there's more. But I'm just saying, stand alone, it's fantastic, right?
Yes.
Mm-hmm. Absolutely.
I mean, what did you guys... Did it exceed your expectations?
Well,
honestly?
it not only exceeded it in and of itself is revolutionary with what it was, but also, I know you say it stands alone as a great movie, which it does, but we all knew, even someone myself that's not into comic strips or whatever, we all knew what it was supposed to be, and that the gateway drug to every other movie in the series. And if that movie fell flat, Marvel wouldn't be making these billions upon billions of dollars that it does. Yeah, it would have had these other movies. Yeah, it would have done fine, would have done well. But
we never would have
that
got the
was
Deadpool and Wolverine
kickstart,
movie.
yeah, the kickstart, the jumpstart that it needed to launch. And Robert Downey Jr. was perfection for that role.
Just unreal.
Talk about, the comeback. And obviously that was in this time where he's doing Tropic Thunder, another banger of a movie. But he's really
That he
starting to
couldn't do
become
now.
we'll talk about that one later.
He was just
that movie.
He was just a dude playing another dude.
Yeah, which you cannot do now.
Dude.
I mean, if Jimmy Kimmel can't and all these guys, I mean, it's crazy
but
where we are now.
Every bit of that, just he was the everyman, but he was a billionaire.
Right,
it
right.
was unbelievable. He was Trump before Trump. Even I don't care what you think about him politically. I don't mean that, but in terms of how he connected with the audience, even though he was this brilliant, womanizing genius that just was cooler than the other side of the pillow, you still felt like you could connect with him, even though he's selling these missiles and he's going overseas and doing these deals and then gets stuck in a cave and then builds this, whatever piece of technology to jumpstart his heart and then become Iron Man. It's like, oh, I probably could do that because he played that character.
Yeah, when I saw that he had a drinking problem, I was like, I totally relate with Tony Stark.
Yeah.
No, all kidding aside,
so
it's a fantastic movie. I mean, they banked the entire farm on.
It made you feel like
Robert Downey Jr. on resurrecting his career, on him saving his face. Like Hollywood didn't want to touch him, and Jon Favreau, I mean, him as well, launched his total career. I mean, now he's a household name for writing. I mean, he's rewriting every Disney movie under the sun, and it all started with them giving him a chance on Iron Man. And I'm the same way. I was never a huge fan of Iron Man comics. Didn't know much about the story outside of, the cool suit and Tony Stark. And I knew that he was rich. He was kind of like Marvel's Batman in a way. I was just kind of like, we'll see how this goes. And I came out the same way, just huge fan. Instantly started going to local comic shops, buying up all the Iron Man comics before the prices went through the roof. And I was like, all right, I'm on board now, and it's weird that I think it comes down to the actor because, it's like Chris Evans and Captain America. I never really was a Captain America fan in the comics, but man, I absolutely love Chris Evans, Captain America. He's just phenomenal. And it really all comes down to the actor. So, I mean, Robert Downey Jr. made that entire movie. It's just perfect.
Right. That's why I like the Halle Berry version of Catwoman, right? Or don't like it. I mean, it was a terrible movie, but I like Halle Berry. I mean, good Lord,
won a Razzie
alone.
Yeah. It won a Razzie.
He was looking at her boobies.
So all right. So we kind of talked about Iron Man. At number 4 is going to be, we talked about a little bit, just 1989 Batman, Michael Keaton, Jack Nicholson. Did you know that Robin Williams was up for Joker? And I don't remember the reason. In the comments, let us know, because I'm sure there's people that will be like, oh, it was because of this and this. Like, yep, I get it. But
well, actually,
he had to turn it down, or he couldn't do it, whatever. And so Jack Nicholson wasn't even the first choice. But I mean, we can all admit that he crushed it. Like, and just from the storyline to Kim Basinger and just everything was done the way that you would hope. It wasn't hokey. The first time you see him in the suit and he pulls the guy up to him and says, "I'm Batman." Like it has the same feel to it now. It all works. Like it's very old, sure, but like it still holds up. Like any of us will watch it right now and be like, "Oh, Batman's on? Yeah, cool. Hold on. Let me cancel this meeting real quick. I'm watching Batman."
Well, and I think that is a good thing that Robin Williams didn't get that role, because Jack Nicholson killed it as the gangster style Joker. And I think that's unique in and of itself. And I hope later in this podcast we can talk more about villains, because they get talked about, but nearly not as much as, the heroes, the protagonists and whatnot, but they're so vital to what makes these movies legendary and cult classics. But him playing the villain role as the gangster Joker. You didn't see that anywhere else. To me, he's the number 2 Joker of all time behind Heath Ledger. But I don't think that's something Robin Williams could have pulled off as well. Robin Williams, again, another all-time actor, but he just has a different style, that Jack Nicholson, like in The Shining, and he can be the funny guy, but also he can be the straight badass that you would never want to cross in a dark alley or even a light alley in the middle of the street, whatever it might be, because he just played that role. And it's like, yeah, he's the Joker, the laughy haha guy, but this dude's a stone cold killer.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, when he's going through that art studio and just knocking stuff off and spray painting, just he's completely unhinged. Yeah,
like Prince has the whole soundtrack.
Yeah, at that moment, you're like, this guy would murder everyone in the room and just enjoy every bit of it.
And then he does in the street during the parade. He gasses everyone.
Yeah. Yeah, insane. And he pulls out that gun at the Batwing that just like keeps, it's like, that's like, yeah, dude, that was like the most like kind of like
chef's kiss.
It was kind of like passing the torch from the Adam West kind of ridiculousness and making it a little more tangible. But like, this is the last moment of silliness we're giving you before we go into some complete like dark territory with something that you're not very familiar with,
Yeah, no, that was awesome, and even now it holds up from 1989. Yeah. So yes, Batman at number 4, and then number 3 I have the original Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles, the live action. Just from the opening scene with Raphael getting mad and saying, "Damn!" Like that already in the opening scene, you're like, "Oh, they cuss!" Like it was such a big deal, like for him to say that, and like it, like Pizza Dude's got 30 seconds, and like all this stuff is like, so it just again. I think with my top 5, it's more about the fact that like all of it, when I say it just worked and it just did, and you, almost like the X Factor, you can't explain it, where it could have gone terrible. Like it could have gone like just off the rails, be terrible, like the Street Fighter movies, or like some of these where it's like a good concept and you could write a good script and get good actors and whatever, and then like, oh god, that was what they came. Mortal Kombat was like almost there, halfway decent, but like Turtles had that way where it could be like, okay, what are they doing? But no, they crushed it. From Casey Jones to April to the acting to how they did Splinter to how they explained the story of Shredder, and how they bet he never asked for a can opener, like just all the little one-liners that in good, the way Turtles do, like, man.
Yeah. Well, and it had the chance to be so corny because of how, and it's really Playmates developing the TV show. It's a cartoon for kids, but also them being teenagers, they made them to surfer dudes, really, that love pizza. It's like, there's no way this movie's going to do, and that's why they thought it would flop. But then you have those classic lines like, wise men say forgiveness is divine.
This is divine.
But never pay full price for late pizza. Yeah, it's like, come on. That movie came out before I was born, and I still know that line.
122 and an eighth. Yeah. 122 and an eighth. Where's 122 and an eighth? You're standing on it, dude. He's like, whoa, what? I remember the address, 122 and an eighth.
Yeah, it's awesome. Kind of like I said when I was talking about it, I feel like it is the most comic-friendly adaptation. I mean, I have an extensive collection of the original comics. I could go pull the Book of New York series, and all those stories in those books are in that movie, every bit, from the antique shop catching on fire, from traveling to the farm, from in this situation, Leonardo has replaced this Raphael in the story in the comics. We're getting beat up, and them having to kind of recess his help. But that whole film, like the whole rooftop scene in the end, and if you go back and watch it on YouTube, it still gives me chills. Like, it's very intense. It's like they crack the jokes, but then they turn and they say, I got one thing I know, this guy knows where Splinter is. And at that point, the whole movie changes. And the battle scene is just phenomenal. That the martial arts are all live action martial arts, wearing those suits, which is unbelievable. Shredder is wearing that full on garb and just kicking so much ass.
He's
and as a kid, yeah, that's a good one. And as a kid, I was just like you said, Adam, it could have went both ways. It could have been slapstick, corny. I went away like my first introduction to the Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles was at Woolworths, looking at the comic section. And I picked this black and white comic up with these turtles on it. It had all these 4 headbands on the cover, red colored headbands. They didn't have the different colors. They're originally all red. And so I took it home, and like I said, they're cussing, they're slicing people open. I mean, the real comics, Leonardo slices his katanas through Shredder and twists them. I mean, it was intense. So like, I was my first introduction. So when I saw the movie and it wasn't more like the cartoon, I was like, hey, they really like stuck to it. And supposedly the director fought hard to keep that dark tone. Yeah. It was his first movie. He had did like Take On Me video by Aha, and he had did a couple other music videos, and they were just like, here's your chance, bud. And man, it was the highest grossing independent film of all time for its moment. I mean, now it's not, but back then it was.
Yeah, just remember those workers at Playmates that were doing the molds for TMNT when they read the comic strips for the first time. They said, "We're doing this." How graphic it was compared to making child playthings.
Yeah, it's an intense comic.
Yeah.
All right, what you got next, Adam?
It holds up. So that's number 3, and then at number 2 I have Avengers Endgame. And for me, it's just the full culmination of so many things, like we talked about with Iron Man, that we knew once Tony says, "I am Iron Man," at the very end, we're all literally waiting for, and you got to wait almost 20 years, right? But you're waiting for that moment in Avengers Endgame where I gotta admit, dude, it's a little bit like Jesus saying it is finished. Like, dude, it like, this is a little where John Lennon says that they're more popular than the Beatles. He didn't mean that you should
more
worship.
Popular than Jesus, he meant. The Beatles were more popular than Jesus.
Yeah, and he didn't mean it that like the point is that when I say that, I'm not saying it like, oh, it's that and you should worship. Like, I'm just saying, like, the feel of it was like hits you in the chest a little bit.
If the you misquote that. Sorry. I was going to say, if you misquote John Lennon, we're going to sick Yoko Ono on you.
But like, when in that moment where Pepper comes up to him and just, it's like, oh man. And then the funeral, when it's really cool. You may not know this, but the kid who was terrible in Iron Man 3, the kid is actually in that scene at the end where they're at like back at the cabin and it cuts to like all the people. That kid, he's older now, but he's in that scene. And it's just like, wow, that's pretty cool. Like, to have all the people, it's like the end of Seinfeld, where just for fun they just like threw everyone together, to testify against them. It's like an ode to the show, right? Well, they did like an ode to Robert Downey Jr. is what it felt like. It was like more than a movie. It was like, hey, Robert, thanks for being on board with this, man, and thanks for being the catalyst to do this and to do it well. We applaud you. That's what I felt. I was like, wow, did Robert Downey die? Like that, like, dude, it was crazy. Like, and how like little scenes like on your left and, where here comes Falcon and they all like, and then of course they had to have the women's movement. So here come Pepper Potts with the girls and like, yes, okay. All right, like whatever, you got to do that. That it was okay.
It was fine. That was really corny though.
and whatever. Like, again, fanfare, like we said. But was it like 1% maybe cool? Okay, but like just the whole thing, like, man, it just checks off all the boxes. Yeah,
definitely.
Yeah, and I think what's really cool Ti, sorry to cut you off, but just to throw in
No,
something real quick.
I was gonna get your opinion on it. I was saying I was
Yeah,
good with it.
well, I think what's really interesting shows how close of buddies we all are, but at the same time, so different. Adam, you mentioned how when you saw Iron Man back when it came out in 2008, you're waiting for Endgame. You waited nearly 15 years, 20 years, whatever it might have been. Hasn't been 20 years, but to the point, I waited a long time. When I saw Iron Man, I had no idea what Endgame was. I had no idea who Thanos was. Never heard of him or anything. So ignorance was bliss for myself. But I was just able to be in there and enjoy it. So Iron Man as itself, or as the one off to me, obviously it's not a one off, but to me it was a one off. I could just watch it, and as a standalone movie, it was quite good. For someone like you or someone like Ti that understood the comics, understand the history of all of it, you're like, oh my God, this buildup is going to be so massive. Whereas I'm this knucklehead out in left field, like, oh, that's a good movie. I hope there's another one. I'm going to go watch that one. So it drew in both sides. Yeah, I see you dancing over there, Ti. It drew in both those that were the casuals, didn't know, just enjoyed like going to the movies, and those that were truly into it, the diehards
For sure.
that were into it from day zero, from when you started reading. You read those comics, so I think that's really an interesting angle that different people from different backgrounds that are just into movies can enjoy the build up, whether they knew nothing about it before or they knew everything and knew what was coming.
Yeah,
Absolutely. Yeah, I agree. Like I got that series, like as well as vivid as the Turtle story. Like I remember like finding the Infinity Gauntlet comic and being like, just the cover art was so phenomenal. It had Thanos holding the gauntlet. All the Infinity Stones are reflecting off the colors, and within each color are all the different heroes and villains all on the cover. And it's just, I remember being like, I'm getting this. And so when I realized that they were leading towards that story, I was just like, oh man, this, my entire childhood that I read for probably years, is now going to be coming to life on the cinema for the next 20 years. Like, it was awesome. It's kind of like the opposite of ignorance is bliss. It's like, I'm very familiar with these stories, but now I get to see how they make it tangible for the larger or the larger population instead of just comic book lovers. And it's a thing. They made people, like a buddy of mine, he's just not into comics, hates superhero movies. He absolutely loves the Deadpool movies. And it's like, there's a style for everybody. You just have to find it.
Yeah. So speaking of style, man, so we know that number one's Dark Knight. I'm not going to waste time, like the build up. We know it. So let's get into it though. Yeah. And I feel like, first of all, I will say that Christian Bale ranks way up there. That if it wasn't for nostalgia of Michael Keaton, that there's an argument that I would listen to that says that Christian Bale, who shares the same birthday as a one Adam Marino, not the literal day, but January 30th, a different year. But you got to admit that he crushed it. There was not one thing, not one that you could say, man, it would be nice if he could have, like, no, dude. You can say that about George Clooney, wish he would have done this. You can say this about Val Kilmer, wish he would have done this. But with Christian Bale, I really think he truly nailed it as Batman, and he nailed it as, Bruce Wayne. And so you have that factor. And here's one thing that I want to point out. About 5 or 6 years ago, someone pointed this out to me, and I've never looked at the movie the same. You take away that it's a superhero movie, take away Batman, take away it's that Christian Bale ever puts on the suit, all right? Take that out of there. You still got Lucius Fox, you still have the story of Rachel, you still have everything, and a menace and the city shutting down and whatever. You take away Batman, it's still an amazing movie. If you take out Iron Man, like, out of an Iron Man movie, it doesn't make sense. You take Batman out of Dark Knight, it's still a good movie. I have no idea, none, how Christopher Nolan pulled that off. But think about that. It is amazing, right? Just right there is how amazing I think that movie is that a superhero movie that you take out the superhero and it's still a phenomenal movie where Debo takes the takes you can't make that decision, and he throws
on the
thing,
ferry.
like, dear Lord, like that. Yeah. So good.
Yeah. And that was like the Tale of Two Cities type paradox there too, you know?
Yeah.
So
yeah, the haves and the have-nots.
Amazing.
The women and children and the criminals
phenomenal.
who you're like, there's no way. Well, they've had their chance.
They've had their chance.
Yeah.
And that's what the guy says. They've had, now, hey, we should talk about this. We're not going to talk about this. Well, they had their chance. Yeah.
The criminals are more human than the law-abiding citizens.
Right. Because they had women and children.
And it's not about the money.
Yeah.
It's about sending a message.
Right.
It's also too, money. I think. Yeah, go ahead, Miles.
No, I was just going to say, I've been oohing and aahing over, or simping, as we would say these days, over Heath Ledger's role as the Joker. I've probably the third or fourth time this podcast, I've already brought it up. Because I wish, obviously he passed away, and part of it was because he was playing the role. Him just getting his standalone movie, had he survived, like, my God, that was so enthralling watching him play that role. And of course, I know it's not just me, and I was just a teenager when that movie came out, but so many others, you hear it all the time going into it, knowing Heath Ledger was going to play that movie after he was in like the King Arthur's Court or whatever the hell, Knight's Tale or whatever the hell that was. And I think We Will Rock You was playing that movie or some dumb crap. And like 10 Things I Hate About You. And then he's playing the Joker. What? And then he played the role, and you're like,
come again?
Yeah, right. And then he did it, and it was like, okay, never mind. He was just, it was all
my
time.
bad.
Yeah.
Everybody kind of like, you're right. They kind of poo-pooed at that, like, oh man, it's this guy. But yeah, he just from that opening scene where he's just like, hey, you guys want to see a magic trick? At that point, a friend of mine was like, that movie should have just been called The Joker. Like, it was like, that's what it was. But kind of like to your point, Adam, is that, where it is like Heath Ledger's vehicle in a way, it's also like a semi-standalone tale of Bruce Wayne. And this is why I think like your theory works about taking Batman out, because Bruce Wayne at this point in the story is a little tortured, like mentally. Like, he doesn't want to even be Batman. But he's had this new threat to Gotham that is just undeniable. And he has to be Batman. Not only does he have to be Batman, he has to be tested mentally to his like full mental capacity of every aspect of his life. Not only why he watches the woman of his love, a woman that he loves, his love of his life, falling in love with the DA, marrying the DA. He's got this whole just like mental complexity up to where it's like, he doesn't know what he wants to be, and the only person that he can talk to and be honest with about himself is Alfred. So he's like this, it's this whole entrapment of that. And the Joker reminds him that you need me, I need you, we are one. And that's the whole full awakening moment. That's the moment where
he
like,
says
they are the same person.
I don't want to kill you. I don't want to kill you. I need you.
Yeah. You complete me.
So good.
I mean, and it's not.
Damn it.
And it's not even meant to be funny. It's like so genuine, and it's so accurate. It's like, what do those two men do without each other? Batman can go chase petty criminals all he wants, but that's what
It's his top.
Harvey
villain.
Dent's for. Harvey Dent is there so the city no longer needs Batman. So not only does the city no longer needs him, his love of his life no longer needs him. Nobody needs him.
And Harvey Dent lived
very
long
sad
enough to become the villain.
And the Joker brings him out of his torment and shell and is like, come on, And that scene when they're in the skyscraper and he's going floor to floor, like, and Joker's fighting him and the dogs are sicking the dogs on him. And oh man, that's like the quintessential like Joker Batman moment for me. Like, I love the 89, but in today's world, like, that's the Joker that I'm always going to see. That crazy, unhinged, just smile cut, like, it's just that, and that's what we get now. That's the Joker that we get. We don't see the Cesar Romero. We don't see the Jack Nicholson. That Joker has been put to rest.
Jared Leto,
at least for now. Yeah. Oh God, don't get me started with that guy.
Yeah.
Some people like him. Oh, that Joker. I mean, we could talk about the Jokers. We could talk about all the best Jokers, but that's probably an episode in itself. So, like Miles said, like, let's talk about villains. Like, who are the best villains? You know, obviously, I think Thanos is fantastic. We all love Joker, but like, what are some outside the box villains?
Yeah. Adam, you got to go on this one.
All right, so are we saying villains in any movie per se?
Well, superhero.
Okay, it's still because I was gonna go with the dog from Sandlot.
He was
Because
misunderstood.
You know,
He was misunderstood.
Hey, Thanos is misunderstood. Thanos just wants balance.
He did. Thanos wanted to spare. He spared a
killing
lot
half
of
the
humanity.
universe.
Thanos, I mean, that was very kind to him. He could have wiped out everybody, but he didn't. He kept half of the people. You know, it was a lot less. It was a lot more quiet. That's what he liked. More room for him to walk through his poppy seed garden or whatever it was.
Hercules,
like Russell Crowe.
Hercules, the dog from Sandlot, it's about property rights. He was just protecting his property. The kids were the real villains. They came onto his property. He's just protecting himself.
Get off my lawn.
Yeah, right.
That's all it was.
So,
get off my lawn.
Who else you got? Superhero
Miles
movies.
Nailed it. Miles nailed it.
You're welcome.
Man, I'll throw one out there.
For his own good.
The ladies don't get a lot of love. Helena in Ragnarok she's awesome. She's awesome. Go ahead. I was gonna say when she shatters Thor's hammer with her finger, I was just like, okay, I don't want to mess with this bitch.
Can
Sorry,
I give
ladies,
you
if I offended you there, but I do not want to mess with that bitch.
I'll give you another lady. I'll give you another lady right here.
All right.
Rita Repulsa, baby.
Oh, there you go.
Power Rangers. Everyone recognizes that tune right there. Oh, she is smoking hot. She is angry all the time. It's fiery. It's attractive. I'm into it.
Leave my ex out of this. Angry all the time.
I'll throw another one out there. I guess you could say this is kind of comic book in a way, but I mean, Judge Doom, Christopher Lloyd, that's a fantastic villainous character from Who Framed Roger Rabbit.
Oh,
I mean, to be a
when he gets flattened.
Yeah, to be like a toon himself and want to wipe out the toons, like we've all seen that story over history play itself over time way too many times, and they just like embody that for this cartoon like murder frame movie that was meant to kind of be a kids movie and was far from it. You know, I mean, to this day, like Roger Rabbit's like one of my all-time favorites. So yeah, Judge Doom is a nice villain. You know. Oh yeah. Watch out, man. You got a superhero cape flying at me.
You got a villain coming at you. Dr. Doom.
Excelsior.
If it's a Homelander, I'm getting out of here, guys.
So, I mean, Lex, I feel like I'm not a huge Superman guy, but like, you don't have Superman without, you know what I mean? Like, without Lex Luthor, like, that's kind of like peanut butter and jelly, and it's just such a classic.
Joker and Batman, it balances.
It's worth, it's worth mentioning. Like, you know,
Coke and Pepsi.
There's been some good Lex Luthors, and there's been some bad ones, but as far as
Jesse Eisenberg
characters
was pretty
go, that was so odd, so freaking odd, man.
Very weird.
Like, because so let me. Did you guys like Henry Cavill as? I mean, I thought he did a fabulous job, honestly.
Yeah, I think he's fine. I think it's the storytelling and the direction. Like that's what it relies down to.
He was set up to fail. And I think it's the same as Val Kilmer in Batman Forever. I think he could have been a good Batman, but the storytelling and the setting was garbage.
Yeah.
It's crazy how that can ruin like what you think of someone. And then speaking of Val Kilmer, then you see him on the newer Top Gun, you're like, oh God, you just feel sorry for him.
Yeah, but the movie was amazing, so that's fine.
Yeah. Well, so he was a villain.
Then you see him in Wonderland and you're like, right. Yeah. You guys ever seen Wonderland?
No.
Oh, you need to watch it. That's Val Kilmer plays John Holmes, but it's about like but it's not what you think it is, and it is a killer movie. It is I highly recommend it. It's about the famous murders. Was it maybe the Manson murders? I think like maybe he was linked at some point to being like related, not being associated with that whole group, and like so look that up. Like that's a fantastic Val Kilmer performance.
Yeah,
I gotta say for myself, going back to the superhero movies, and I mentioned Tobey Maguire with Spider-Man earlier. Green Goblin, for me, that movie coming out when I was 10, 11, 12 years old, Man, so good.
Sandman. Yeah.
Well, and especially the actor is escaping me right now who almost played the Joker back in the 90s. The actor that played the Green, not Delfoy.
William Dafoe.
William Dafoe. Thank you. Yeah, William Dafoe. Man, that dude is creepier.
Or excuse me, Willem.
Yes, Willem Dafoe.
He always, for some reason, always plays a bad guy. Like he hardly ever plays anybody very nice.
He doesn't. He can't. He's so creepy. His personality is just so out there. But it's such a perfect fit, man. I hated that dude. But that's what you want out of a villain. You want to hate them. He did a good job in that role. When you're like, this guy might be in my closet right now. He might bust in through a window and terrorize my grandma as she's trying to pray over her bed at night. So,
watch out, Grandma. I'll throw one out there. Fantastic one. Can't forget is Magneto. Like, doesn't matter. It doesn't matter really who the actor is. Doesn't matter whether it's comics, whether it's cartoon, whether it's a movie. Like his presence is
Fassbender
is
I
always
amazing.
Yeah, he's fantastic. Christopher Plummer's fantastic. Like they're great. Like they command his villainous character commands a presence, and he has, to me, the coolest power in the world of magnetics. It's just like he can do whatever he wants. He can, we've seen in the movies where he's been into the San Francisco Bridge and Golden Gate Bridge, and to me, that's just a cool villain. Like that guy can do things that other villains cannot. Not named Thanos.
So, I got another one, obscure one, that I'm going to give you the actor's name and see if you guys can grab the name of the villain. Al Pacino.
Superhero movie
from Dick Tracy, Flat Top.
Oh wow!
Not Flat Top.
Big Boy Caprice.
Yeah, there you go, Big Boy Caprice. Yeah, I saw Dick Tracy in the theater. Actually, I forgot about it.
Tracy.
Oh, he's great.
Madonna as Breathless Mahoney.
Wow.
Mumbles. Remember Dustin Hoffman?
That's great.
Yeah. Mumbles.
Dude, there's some good villains, you guys. Like really good.
The kid was great in that.
Yeah, really outside of the box villains. I love it. Love it. Good. Villains don't get enough love.
Then Doctor Doom, and also who played Air in Men in Black? It's like Air, but he's wearing an Air suit. Vincent D'Onofrio.
Oh, Vincent D'Onofrio. Yeah, he's
Kingpin.
Good.
Kingpin, there you go.
Yeah,
Kingpin's a solid
he's scary,
one, dude.
He's scary, and he crushes that dude's skull in the car door. Ooh,
yeah.
So
Kingpin's good.
Yeah. I'd never seen that in Marvel stuff before until that, and I was like, okay, this is a little more. It's a little more adult oriented here. I like it.
And then also we can't forget in Iron Man 1. Not the guys in those other countries. Those are obviously villains. Yeah. They were like taking his equipment. But remember, his partner turned on him and was the main villain, basically. Jebediah, right?
Yeah, Ironmonger. Yeah, he's his first true villain.
And he turns to those guys and saying, Tony Stark built this in a cave. And he said, sorry, sir. I'm not Tony Stark.
What's funny about that, if you YouTube that scene, the guy's hair, they gave him like a cul-de-sac, where the hair but dude, it's so perfectly finite that I think they shaved him.
Yeah,
I think he has a full head of hair and they just shaved his head, because it's like I don't think that guy's balding.
Nerdy
they just make him a nerdy scientist. It's like, what are they doing? So funny.
Yeah, that's awesome.
Those are pretty solid villains.
I gotta say that's a good alternate league of extraordinary gentlemen there. and ladies.
Yes. Yeah,
we're inclusive here.
Can't exactly. We don't want to be canceled, as this is only episode 3. So reminder,
we don't
guys,
care if you identify as a football. We got love for you.
Yeah.
Especially if you identify as a football.
Yeah, we all identify as idiots. So remember, show your fellow idiots this show by taking your phone and hitting them over the head with it. No. Show them the YouTube channel. Let them know we are on Facebook, Instagram, all of the things. The links are down below in the show notes. But this is episode 3, so stick around. Monday we will be back for episode 4, letting you know what's going down in the week of sports, pop culture, everything. Remember, we come to you every Monday and Thursday, so tell a friend, and if you don't, then jump off a cliff, right?
All the love. With love, peace, and harmony.
Spoiler alert, don't jump off a cliff. It won't end well.
Right. So the alternative is to tell someone.
Right.
Again, this is Sports Idiot Nation, and we'll see you Monday.
Okay, all you sinners, follow Sports Idiot Nation on TikTok, X, and Instagram. Like us on Facebook, and remember, the most fun way to watch us is on YouTube every Monday and Thursday. Be sure to hit the notification bell so you can be updated when new content drops. Remember, the podcast can also be found on the usual suspects of Apple Podcasts and Spotify. Always remember, don't be an idiot.
Sinner.